All right, let's dig into what makes a great DevOps team tick. And I'm not talking about the slickest CI/CD pipelines or perfectly crafted YAML files. Nope, we're going to look at something way more powerful, the stuff that really makes or breaks a team, the human skills.
I mean, you've seen this before, right? You get two teams, they've got the same tech stack, pretty much the same projects, but the results are just worlds apart. One team is absolutely crushing it, and the other one is just stuck. So what is the secret sauce? What's the real difference maker here?
Well, here it is. It's not the tools, it's the people. The absolute core of any successful DevOps setup isn't the technology. It's realizing that the hardest problems, they're human problems. It all comes down to how we talk to each other, how we work together, how we collaborate.
And that right there, that's the critical missing link in so many DevOps transformations. It's that invisible glue that takes all the amazing technical skills and actually makes them work, in the real world.
Think about it, right? Technology doesn't implement itself. People do. And when communication breaks down, you get friction. That friction can bring even the most sophisticated automated pipeline grinding to a halt. Seriously, you can have the best tools on the planet, but if the team can't gel, they're basically useless. So it's time we start thinking about upgrading our people skills.
Okay, so let's start with the absolute bedrock of all of this, communication. The best way to think about it is it's the network protocol for your team. And if that protocol is buggy, well, messages get dropped, things get corrupted, and basically nothing gets done.
Now check this out, because this is kind of mind-blowing. Look at how our messages are actually received. According to this one classic study, a wild 93% of how our communication lands has nothing to do with the words we say. It's our body language and our tone of voice. Only a tiny 7% is the actual words. Just let that sink in next time you're on a Zoom call with your camera off.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Our faces, our posture, the tone we use, that stuff tells the real story, often before we even open our mouths. Being able to read those signals is absolutely crucial for figuring out what's really going on with your team.
So how do we actually fix our communication protocol? Well, here's a fantastic framework, the 7 C's. Before you send that email or post in Slack, just do a quick check. Is it clear? Is it concise? Concrete? Correct? Coherent? Complete? And courteous? Seriously, just trying to hit these marks is a total game changer. Okay, here's a really cool technique for that whole nonverbal thing we were talking about. It's called mirroring. All you do is subtly match someone's posture, maybe their gestures or tone. It sounds a little weird, but it creates this subconscious connection that makes people way more open to what you're saying. It's a super simple way to build rapport, instantly.
All right, so we've got our communication protocol tightened up. Now let's talk about the second pillar. If communication is the protocol, then you can think of collaboration as the high-performance engine it's powering. But, like any engine, it needs the right kind of fuel and some key parts to run without blowing up. And the absolute non-negotiable foundation of that engine is trust. Look, trust isn't some fluffy, feel-good concept. It's a real, tangible thing. It's built on confidence. It's that gut feeling you have that your teammates will actually do what they say they're going to do.
In building trust, it follows a really simple, predictable cycle. It's a 3-step process. First, an agreement is made. Could be a deadline, could be anything. Second, that agreement is kept. When that happens, trust goes up. But third, if that agreement is broken, trust gets destroyed. It's a simple but kind of brutal equation.
And a huge part of trust is what we call psychological safety. Think about it. In a safe team, people are willing to toss out crazy ideas or raise their hand and say, hey, I think this might be a problem. But in a team rolled by fear, people just stay quiet. And that's how tiny little bugs turn into massive production outages, because nobody felt safe enough to speak up. So, what's the fuel for this collaboration engine? It's something I like to call social grease. This is that social currency you build up in those little non-work chats, talking about your weekend, your hobbies, whatever. That connection, that's what makes it so much easier later on to ask for help or have a tough conversation about a project.
Okay, so we've talked about the team's communication and collaboration. Now let's pivot and look inward. It's time to talk about upgrading your own personal operating system to make you more effective.
First things first, we got to be aware of a common bug that's pre-installed in all of our operating systems. It's called Parkinson's Law. And the principle is so simple but so true. Work expands to fill the time you give it. You give a task 8 hours, it's going to take 8 hours. Give that same exact task a 2-hour deadline, and you'd be amazed how often you can get it done in 2.
And you can see that law right here in action. A tight deadline, it forces you to be super focused, super efficient. A big, loose deadline? Yeah, that's just an invitation for distraction and procrastination. Just knowing this exists can completely change how you plan your workday.
So, how do we patch this bug in our system? Well, one of the best tools out there is time blocking. It's simple. You treat your focus time like it's a critical meeting. You actually schedule a block on your calendar for one specific task, you turn off all your notifications, and you protect that time like a fortress.
Another great app you can install on your personal OS is the Pomodoro technique. It's super straightforward. You work in these intense 25-minute sprints, and then you take a mandatory 5-minute break. It is fantastic for staying locked in and avoiding that burnout you feel after hours of unstructured work.
And of course, no operating system is any good if you don't install the updates, right? In our world, continuous learning, it's not a nice to have, it is an absolute necessity. It's how you stay relevant, how you patch the vulnerabilities in your own knowledge, and how you add new features to your skill set.
And if you want to make sure those updates actually install correctly, you have to be intentional about it. Set small goals you can actually hit. Reframe failure as just getting more data. Mix up your learning methods. Don't just read books, watch videos, do tutorials, and maybe find an accountability partner to keep you on track. A little structure goes a long way.
Okay, so let's recap. We've talked about the communication protocol, the collaboration engine, and upgrading your personal operating system. When you start to put all three of these things together, that's when the magic really happens. Something truly transformative.
You literally start to evolve. You go from being the person who closes tickets to someone who actually influences outcomes. When you master these skills, your impact becomes so much bigger than just the code you write. You become what they call a force multiplier for your entire team.
Look, at the end of the day, your technical skills are what got you the job. They got you in the door. But it's these human skills. These are the things that will actually define your career path and your ultimate success. So, I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. You've already mastered the technology. The real question is, are you ready to master the team?